This is the ASUS Transformer 3 Pro, technically known as the T303UA. It's a 12.6-inch 2-in-1 laptop with some pretty impressive specs that does a lot well, but I'm not sure I'll be buying one anytime soon. So by now you probably already know if you're a fan of this sort of 2-in-1 hybrid style of laptop. Calling the Transformer 3 Pro a Microsoft Surface clone is perhaps a bit simplistic, but there's no denying how similar they really are. And if I'm honest, I'm still not really convinced by this form factor of laptop. So the Transformer 3 Pro is a full-fat Windows tablet with a detachable magnetic keyboard which attaches like so. Unlike the Microsoft Surface where you have to buy the keyboard separately, this comes bundled with it, which is great to see. The first thing you'll notice when you use the Transformer is just how beautiful that screen is. The 12.6-inch glossy 2880 by 1920 IPS touchscreen is absolutely stunning and really responsive to touch. It's a 3:2 aspect ratio like the Microsoft Surface Pro and feels a bit more like a magazine if you're holding it than a traditional 16:9 laptop screen, which is much better for using in tablet mode. Producing a maximum of 300 nits of brightness and covering 85% of the RGB and 99% of the sRGB color gamut, the screen is punchy, vibrant, and also relatively accurate for creative professionals and designers. Now inside this model we have a Core i5-6200U Skylake processor, 4GB of RAM and a 256GB SSD, which will set you back around £900 or $1,000, but the Pro here can be spec'd all the way up to an i7, 512 storage and 8 or 16GB of RAM, which costs quite a bit more at about £1,400 or $1,500. So the entry-level model I have here is still fast enough for general office work, for video streaming, for basic video and photo editing. But if you're going to do anything more demanding, or if you have loads of Chrome tabs open, or you're a bit more of a power user, I'd opt for the higher spec one, particularly 8GB of RAM. That will come in handy. It's just about good enough for a bit of light gaming, like Minecraft or a Source engine game, CSGO for example, which is just about playable at low settings if you drop the resolution. But really, this isn't a gaming machine. In general use though, the Transformer feels really nippy. Everything opens fast, it boots quickly, and this is all thanks to the SSD storage built in. Now it actually uses the SATA 3 connection rather than the faster NVMe M2 connection you get on some higher level laptops and tablets these days. So the read and write speeds at about 480 read and 300 megabytes per second write holds it back compared to some of the competition like the MacBook Pro, the new ones, and all the Dell XPS, which as I say use a faster M2 connection. In reality though, it's difficult to tell the difference, and the Pro still feels incredibly fast to use and everything is really responsive. Design-wise, the Transformer Pro 3 is basically a slightly larger Surface Pro. It's got a fully adjustable kickstand, which, if I can open it, comes out to 170 degrees and can stop at any point. It's not just one or two clicks, it can be fully adjustable. The magnesium chassis looks great, and the exhaust grille at the top, which actually gets surprisingly noisy when you're doing some even moderate work, is a little bit annoying, but it's all pretty standard and quite similar to the Surface. One thing I have noticed though is that this metal body scratches quite easily. Although to be fair, this is a review sample and they tend to get banged up quite a bit, but there are some definite scratches on the metal body here. The bottom of the tablet connects to the keyboard folio dock, which, unlike some other hybrids and the older Android Transformers or even the Surface Book, don't add any extra ports or battery. It is simply a keyboard and touchpad. Ports wise on the Transformer, you get a full-size USB 3, a HDMI, headphone jack, micro SD card reader, which I really wish was just a full-size SD card slot, and one of the latest USB-C Thunderbolt 3 ports, which is also used to charge it. You get front-facing stereo speakers, and also, as you'd expect for a tablet like this, you get a couple of cameras. The front 2 megapixel selfie or webcam is pretty decent, and you also get a rear 13 megapixel camera if you fancy taking photos with your tablet for whatever reason. On the whole, the Transformer 3 Pro feels pretty comfortable to hold and use at 0.79 kilograms without the keyboard or 1.14 kilograms with it. It's either a fairly hefty tablet or an impressively light laptop, depending on how you look at it. But actually, considering it's a 12.6-inch screen size tablet, the weight distribution feels good, and it doesn't actually feel as heavy as you might think. 99% of the time though, I'm not really using it like this. I'm using it in full laptop mode, attached to the stand, the dock, and then with the kickstand out. This is how I use it most of the time. And compared to a traditional clamshell laptop, it is very light and portable, but it is definitely best to use it on a desk or a hard surface rather than your lap. It is still reasonably comfortable, and I was surprised how the kickstand didn't actually dig into my legs as much as I thought it would, but the whole thing just feels a bit flimsy, mostly down to the keyboard dock, which feels incredibly cheap and low quality compared to the rest of the tablet. The keyboard itself is actually very good. The chiclet style keys have a good amount of space and travel at 1.4mm. It's not actually a dissimilar typing experience to the excellent Dell XPS line, the latest 13, which I've been trying out recently. And I really like how the keys are backlit. The keys do feel a little bit spongy and sound quite hollow as the dock itself is so thin. But the typing experience is actually surprisingly good. But it's this cheap plastic material and the rough texture of the Folio keyboard that really lets the quality down. Like the keyboard, the trackpad is actually quite nice with a smooth feel to it. It's reasonably responsive but quite small, so most of the time I just end up using the touchscreen. I have found the palm rejection though on the touchpad to be a little bit iffy, a bit hit and miss. Sometimes when I'm typing on it, my palms will go over the trackpad and it sort of moves the cursor on the screen and changes what I'm doing, which is a bit annoying actually sometimes. Overall then, the Folio dock isn't as good or comfortable as a regular laptop, but if you've ever seen a Surface Pro or use one of these sort of hybrid 2-in-1s, you know that's the case already. You're buying this for that portability. Now one last thing, let's talk about battery life. Inside is a 39 watt-hour battery, which gives the Transformer Pro 3 about 4.5 hours of normal use in my experience. It's a bit disappointing though and below the average for this sort of device. The Surface Pro 4, for example, lasts about 7 or 8 hours. Significantly though, this ASUS is about £300 more than the Surface Pro 4 for a similar spec. So I think we're going to need to do a more in-depth comparison. So make sure you subscribe to this channel because in a few days I'll be posting a video of a full Transformer Pro 3 versus Surface Book 4 video, so do stay tuned to that. So the Surface Pro has proved popular as a device. There's definitely an audience for this sort of 2-in-1 hybrid laptop. But there's just lots of little things that add up to take away from the overall experience. First of all, it's more expensive than the Surface Pro. The battery life is poor. The fan gets surprisingly loud even when you're not doing particularly intensive tasks. The keyboard is good, but the Folio case and the quality of it is pretty poor and feels cheap. The metal body scratches, and generally it's just not, for me, as convenient as using a 13-inch laptop like a ZenBook 3 or a Dell XPS 13. On the other hand though, the screen is lovely, the touch interface is really nice and responsive, it's powerful enough for most tasks and comes in lots of configurations so you can get the right one for you. It's really thin and light and portable, and you do get USB-C, and it's probably the best alternative to a Surface Pro if, for whatever reason, you don't want one of those. If I had to give it a score, which I don't usually do, it would be somewhere around 7.5 out of 10. It's pretty good, but not great. So that's the Transformer Pro 3. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the review. Let me know what you think of 2-in-1s and hybrids like this in the comments, and if you'd ever buy one. Please do like, share and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time right here on the Tech Chat.